Hey guys, want to review the Gerber MP600 Multitool. Let's start by saying this thing kind of got a bad reputation. A couple of years ago, Nothing Fancy did a review on it, and he did a negative review. And that's kind of stuck with it, and it really is kind of, that whole groupthink thing has happened, and now this is a tool that's really thought poorly of, and you read a lot of bad things about it on forums. And I kind of want to come to the rescue because I'm actually really impressed with it for the money, and I've really enjoyed using it, and want to talk honestly about it and not just repeat what Nothing Fancy says and what the other big names out there say. I want to give you something a little unbiased and truthful and my own interpretation of it. So the MP600, it was issued to the military, I think as early back as the 90s. I think they stopped about like 5 or 6 years ago. Maybe it still is, I'm not sure. This is not a military version, this is a civilian version, but by Gerber. As you can see, it's a modern Gerber with the new logo, the new black tactical marketing campaign they got going on. I picked this one up for $45. This is the cheapest version you can get. There's other versions of this. They have like a blunt nose, they have a version with the removable carbide cutters in the plier. There's a sight tool edition for the AR-15. I believe there's even like one with a demolitions kind of equipment on it. This is the least expensive. This is the $45 one. But you know what, guys? You can get the good ones for cheaper. There are a ton of these on eBay. These things were military issue for 10, 15 years. There's a lot of these floating around on eBay. You can pick up used ones that are in great condition for like $25 to $35. Now, let's talk a little bit about the main complaints people have, which is the opening system. This doesn't fold like a traditional Leatherman. It has this kind of sliding set of pliers that you can flick out for one-handed use with a little pin locking system. Now mine's still a little stiff. I haven't used it enough to really loosen it up, but some people don't like this because it leaves the pliers a little wobbly and noisy. So a lot of people hate these just because of that. It doesn't bother me. I don't need my pliers to be, it doesn't bother me to have a little wiggle on them. They're still plenty strong. There's no, that wobble is not a sign of weakness in any way, shape, or form in the design. You've got your traditional kind of needle nose pliers, the area in the center for removing nuts and bolts, your wire cutter, and then all of your tools are internal, meaning you can only access them while the knife or while the multi-tool is open. Now, Leatherman has kind of changed the market on that. Most of their tools now have tools that you can access without opening the tool itself. So these tend to be a little outdated. It doesn't bother me. A multi-tool is not, a tactical knife. I don't need quick deploy on really anything in my multi-tool. So we'll take a look. You got your blade, which is kind of a sheep's foot, normal grind. They all have a little wiggle to them, guys. This is, Gerber. There's a little bit of wiggle here. These aren't like your Leathermans that snap up perfectly, perfectly tight. We got bottle opener with a little screwdriver. You got a medium-sized screwdriver, another little tiny screwdriver. So you got all those in there. And they have this little locking mechanism, which is plastic, which is my one big complaint. I do not like that plastic. So there are those. On this other side here, not as much. You have your, get back in frame here, can opener, a real three-dimensional Phillips head screwdriver bit, and lastly you have the, get these other ones out of the way, you have the sheep's foot serrated blade. Now, here is, I think I missed something too, guys. I missed the file on the other side. One of the big complaints people have is using the sheep's foot. You're going to be cutting, this bottom handle is going to be in the way. So say my finger is a tree branch, while you're cutting, you might be bumping into that bottom, and say if you do use it like this to cut, and you are cutting and you smack this somewhere, you can really pinch or cut your fingers in that. So I do not like that part of the design as well. But that's the way these old tools were designed. You know, Leatherman is doing some great stuff, but this is the way of the world up until 10 years ago. So there it is. That's the MP600. It's you know, it's getting a little looser. It's starting to pop out there like it should. It's not too shabby at all. I really like it. I'm actually more impressed with it than I expected. Mine came with this little Gerber pouch with the belt strap on the back. Has two different compartments, so I guess if you're putting it on Molly, you can use two straps to secure it to give it a little more stability. So a lot of people don't like it. As I mentioned, people don't like that the pliers are wiggly. People don't like the way the tools open, that the tools have a little wiggle to them. Understandable, completely understandable. Those, you know, are not design flaws. That's just the way multi-tools are. If it's not a Leatherman, you know, Leatherman really kind of has the best stuff out there. We're all spoiled by Leatherman, and we expect that perfect lockup of everything. So this wasn't built to be a Leatherman. This is built to be a tough military issue set of one-handed multipliers. And the design is actually really smart. Now, a lot of pliers tend to use a lot of weird hookups, and I don't trust them very much. But after looking at and using this set, this is actually a really interesting design, and it's really tough. This is not, you know, this sleek, gentle design. This is really something rough and tough that you can use hard. And I'll kind of point this out to you. Now, first of all, you can see that the way the handles connect together is with two rivets, one on each side, and that the actual handle material is relatively thick steel. This is not, you know, thin gauge. You know, this is something that's going to take a real effort to warp or to bend, this outer steel. Now, your inner pliers, of course, have that pin. You can't really see them because you can't open it up while it's not deployed, and they're hidden while it's out. But there's a nice big pin in there that's holding the pliers together, which is what you're always going to see with pliers. So, but normally they're connected. They're one piece. You know, you have that, the pliers are part of the handle, and it's all cast out of one piece, which gives you that extra stability, but it also makes that capability for something to bend or warp a little easier. Now with this, when they're deployed, say I'm really wrenching down on something. Number one, most of my pressure is going to come to the joint in the actual pliers. So that's going to be where most of my pressure is. Now there's also going to be pressure in the handles as I push down on these handles because they're not connected to the pliers. There's going to be pressure on these two rivets. So that force is going to be taken off of one joint and now put onto three joints. So you're going to have less amount of pressure on each individual joint. You're going to have the internal pressure on the actual jaws themselves, plus the pressure from the handle being diluted to two separate rivets. But the whole thing is connected via this pin. And I'm going to show you the action on this up close, because I think this is one of the things people don't show you in videos about this, guys. So I think it's important, so hopefully you bear with me. As you can see, there are two little kind of rivets here, and in the center is the locking pin. And what happens, as you can see, there's a little bulge here in the frame. And as you hit that bulge, that pin pops out. We'll do that one more time. So you can see it from the side. As you can see, it pops up. Now underneath there, if you look, that pin is actually much bigger than sticks out. That little knob that sticks out, just the end of it. Underneath there, that pin is about 1/4 inch in diameter. So you actually have about 1/4 inch of steel here and here holding this to, you know, the pliers to the handle. So now you have two more points of contact. So when you're wrenching down on this sucker, you've got that internal joint, you've got these external rivets, and these two 1/4 inch pins, which are all putting pressure equally. Well, hopefully equally. Probably a little more on the internal part than anything. But your pressure is being kind of diffused amongst a couple of different places. That gives you a little extra strength. You're not just having a single point of pressure. You take your average Leatherman, which is not connected in this fashion, you're really putting pressure on it, if you were to bend something, it's because all that pressure is being applied to that one joint. It's kind of spread out here. It's really interesting. And I think it works good because it does. You can see that underneath there, that big solid joint. You have that more area, more surface, more load-bearing surface on this than you do your run-of-the-mill Leatherman, which is, I think, what gives it its toughness. And I really like that design. I know it's wiggly and you're probably not going to like it, and you're probably going to say, hey, you're a jerk for even reviewing this, but that is smart. That is the kind of thing you're going to want for a tough tool. You know, I wouldn't recommend, you know, putting pressure on this, you know, opposite of that, because, you know, if you do bend these out, you know, you might lose some of your retention there, but they're already loose. So if you do bend them a little bit, it's not going to affect it. Versus if you do bend out your Leatherman, that could definitely screw that up royally. So there it is, guys, the MP600. I kind of like it, to be honest. I didn't think I was going to like it as much as the Leatherman Sidekick, but I really do. You know, I think it's a nice, tough design, which is what I wanted. And I'm willing to kind of overlook the flaws of it being, you know, kind of wiggly tools and a wiggly lockup for the fact that this is just built really, really tough. Only other complaint, it comes really dirty from the factory. As you can see, just handling it, you know, and I've been handling it quite a bit. I've been getting just tons and tons of residue off of this. And, you know, as you can see, and the coating is wearing a little bit too. You can see spots where the coating's already wearing from, you know, the use I've put it through already. So only complaints really, but I kind of like the design. I like it. And on the box, you know, it says Gerber USA, but it says that it's imported parts, assembled in USA. So that may be a thing for some of you guys, but I like it. I enjoy it. It's definitely one of my favorite multi-tools that I own.